and welcome to National Herald. Is Mamta the biggest opposition leader? After all, Didi O Didi was a call given by none other than our Prime Minister. Narendra Modi wanted to win West Bengal so bad that he campaigned every second week at Bengal. This is indeed Prime Minister Modi's loss. Joining me is Shujan Dotto, senior journalist who has covered West Bengal widely. Welcome, Shujan. Welcome to National Herald. And my first question to you is Mamta Banerjee the new big opposition leader against Prime Minister Modi?
That is something that we will see unfold over the next few months, maybe over the next couple of years. What is definitely a fact since the results of the 2021 Bengal Assembly elections were known yesterday by last night, she is definitely going to be a beacon for the resistance to the BJP and to Narendra Modi's politics. Whether an entire opposition is going to coalesce around the personality of Mamta is yet to be seen. That will be determined by many factors, the biggest of which is likely to be the political fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Um, Elaborate on this whole COVID-19 pandemic bit.
Right. We've seen that through the 8 phases of the election in Bengal, the longest elections probably anywhere, I think longer probably even than elections held in the past in Kashmir, we have seen the pandemic surge. We have seen cases mounting. We have seen important figures of both the ruling establishment and the opposition openly flouting protocols, gathering people in large numbers, and in events that have come to be labeled as super spreader. Uh, there is a degree of culpability on all sides. Mamata and the Trinamool, however, may be able to redeem themselves somewhat because they had, one, objected to the elongated elections, and after the end of the 5th phase particularly, they had made a plea to the Election Commission to club the last 3 phases together to avoid large gatherings. This was not supported by either the BJP and, surprisingly, even by the CPIM, the left.
And where is left in this election? I mean, clearly, as you mentioned, that they were not ready for taking precautions, I would say, for in terms of COVID-19. They're also not there. I mean, they're in the entire election results. There's no mention of them.
Yes, since 19.
Are they disconnected? Do you find them disconnected from Bengalis now?
Since the 1950-1952 elections, this is probably going to be the first house in Bengal that will not have a representative of a communist party. I mean, the undivided Communist Party before 1964 and the CPI and the CPIM, or indeed any of the constituents of the erstwhile of the left front will not be represented in this house of 292. There's a total number of 294 seats, but elections to 2 have yet to be held. While this might be surprising and might be interpreted as a complete abandonment by the left of electoral politics in Bengal, I think a distinction needs to be drawn between the CPI, CPIM, or the so-called left front, and the ideology of leftism, or the social political phenomenon called the left. What my reading of the situation in this election is, I think a bulk of the left vote has transferred to the Trinamool. Just as a bulk of the left vote, actually the CPIM vote, had transferred to the BJP in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. So But the event since 2019, particularly since the pandemic and the lockdown and and then again the second wave of the pandemic. Now,
So Sure, just help me understand. So what you're saying is that although CPIM and maybe CPI also on the ground, especially at grassroots level, have been accused of supporting BJP candidates more than Trinamool. In fact, in all of their speeches, they have actually accused Mamata Banerjee of more harm than BJP. You're saying the voters, the left voters, have actually gone towards TMC more. Is that what you're saying?
I think that has happened in many cases. I personally am acquainted with friends, and I have friends and acquaintances who have been erstwhile supporters of the CPM, CPI. Maybe they continue to be supporters of those parties, but they have actually, without shouting from the rooftop, they have defied the diktat of the party leadership, they have gone against the party line to go and cast votes in favor of the TMC, not so much because they are supporters of Mamata Banerjee, but because they wanted an anti-BJP mandate.
So shouldn't just tell me something that in Kerala, parties have done very well, right? And they seem quite active and competent and efficient. So what has happened between these two, the party members of Kerala and Bengal? Why is there such a huge difference? I mean, here there are no seats. They're actually, for the first time, in all probability, won the elections the second time, right? I mean, generally it's the alternate. It's UDF and LDF. This time, yeah, this time, in spite of anti-incumbency factors, LDF has formed the government, is going to form the government. So what is the difference between left in Bengal and left in Kerala?
If you recall some time back, actually Pinarayi Vijayan should be taking a lot of credit for that. If you recall some time back during, I think, a by-election in Kerala last year, or some local body elections, where the BJP had done fairly well. The BJP has, of course, been wiped out in the Kerala Assembly this time. And Vijayan was asked, how do you respond to the BJP's performance? And Vijayan's response was, I think we are going to focus more on education. That probably sums up in many ways the approach of the CPIM, particularly the left in Kerala, which I think currently, as of today, has a more robust cadre base than the left in Bengal has had since 2011, and certainly it has not had since 2016, the last assembly elections. The CPIM leadership has stood by in West Bengal and watched its party structure being frittered away.
So, I just want to move away from this for a minute and ask you that with Pinnarai winning in Kerala, TMC winning in West Bengal, and DMK winning in Tamil Nadu, there has been there has been an assault on the federal structure. A lot of people, Mr. Modi's detractors, would say that there has been an assault on the federal structure. And with these parties, so-called regional parties, winning these elections, do you think that we can say that there has been some amount of strengthening? Will this also have an impact on the national politics in some ways?
Let us first get an understanding of what we mean by the federal structure as the writers of the Indian Constitution envisaged it. The federal structure in India was envisaged as something that would be both horizontal as well as vertical. The vertical federal structure, of course, goes from the center to the states and right down to the three-tier panchayat system, the district, the panchayat samiti, and the gram panchayats. The horizontal federal structure, which means there is the center, that is the executive, And then you have the judiciary, you have independent constitutional bodies like the judiciary, like election commission. So when we are talking of federalism in India, we have to keep this whole picture in mind, that it's both vertical as well as horizontal. In the last half a dozen years or so, we have seen both these islands of India's federal structure being being undermined in more than one way. There are questions, for instance, now, even yesterday, Prashant Kishore, Mamata Banerjee's strategist in chief, said repeatedly that even in the midst of this victory, I'm questioning whether the election commission has been independent enough in conducting the elections in Bengal and in other states. Mamata Banerjee herself has said that she will go to court and she will appeal to a constitution bench, if possible, on what the role of the election commission should be. Even as we are talking, the Supreme Court, I believe, is hearing an appeal by the election commission to strike down the observations of the Madras High Court, the oral observations of the Madras High Court on the role of the election commission. We have seen earlier, a few months back, how the judiciary has responded. It has been raised in Parliament, and it's no secret that when a former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was made a Rajya Sabha member shortly after retiring, there were questions raised on the impartiality of the judiciary. It's not just about a person. Justice has to be seen to be done. So those are the horizontal structures. In the vertical structures, particularly if you look at the issue of fiscal devolution, of devolution of fiscal powers, each and every state is complaining that its share of the divisible pool, the central divisible pool, has been reduced, that the states are not getting their share of GST collections. And they are saying, because we are not getting the promised funds from the center, we are not able to perform our duties. And this is going to be even more eloquent now. This is going to be even more eloquent now because the center has decided that the vaccination against COVID has to be carried out largely with the states, and health is a state subject. So, and the states are saying, where's the money that you promised us? You give us the money to buy the vaccines, and the states are being asked to buy vaccines at a higher price than the center.
How will all this change with this victory? Will this change anyhow with this victory? Do you think central government will take a couple of things more seriously, because clearly their way of functioning didn't work for these states?
That depends on the kind of resistance that is built up, not just around the personality of Mamata Banerjee, or not just around the event of the BJP's defeat, if one might call it, because the BJP had never retained power. It was hyped up as about to take power in Bengal. So the BJP's defeat in Bengal is not the only event. You have other events that are going on. The farmers are still at the gates of Delhi. You have different states complaining to the center. I mean, the Maharashtra Chief Minister, Uddhav Thackeray, Shiv Sena, who probably has got nothing in common in terms of ideology with either Mamata or the left, has gone on record complaining that when he tried to speak to Mr. Modi, requesting urgent relief when COVID was exploding in Bombay, Modi was busy in an election rally, I think in Burdwan or somewhere in West Bengal, and that he did not have time to respond to what was practically an SOS from a state chief minister, from the chief minister of probably India's financially most richest state.
So, Shujan, it's an interesting point, and I'll come back to my first question because of your point, which is that clearly Mr. Narendra Modi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, spent a lot of time in West Bengal. He's considered to be one of the most popular leaders of this country, if not the most, arguably the most. And his second man, Mr. Amit Shah, they were both there in West Bengal, and then there was Mamata Banerjee on the other side, right? Uh, does this loss, and that's why I guess we're not discussing Kerala and Assam and other states so much, because Mr. Modi didn't invest that kind of time in any other state. He really wanted to win West Bengal. Is there a reason Mr. Modi should be worried now? This victory, is this a cause of any kind of worry for Mr. Modi?
Well, Mr. Modi has got a lot of reasons to be worried if he has the nation's interests at heart. And the major cause for worry for Mr. Modi, or indeed anybody in his hierarchy, is how to reach oxygen cylinders to India's primary healthcare centers. In the 21st century, he came to power promising to turn India into a superpower, and his so-called superpower has been reduced to asking for donations for oxygen cylinders and oxygen containers from all over the world. And people in his national capital, in hospitals in his national capital, are dying for want of oxygen, something as basic as that. This is the biggest reason for worry for Mr. Modi and whoever else. In fact, it's India's health crisis today is an international issue. It is not a domestic issue. That is his first reason to be worried. The second reason to be worried, that is his first reason to be worried as Prime Minister. As a political leader, his reasons for worry would primarily be whether the path taken by West Bengal and indeed by Kerala and Tamil Nadu, not so much Assam, is going to escalate, is going to snowball into political turbulence for him. My hunch is it's not going to happen overnight. It will take time, and it will be determined largely by how we respond to the pandemic situation. It overrides everything. Mamata Banerjee, after being declared, after TMC was declared a winner yesterday, in her first public utterances, said that the center has budgeted 35,000 crore rupees for vaccinations. If we were to vaccinate every Indian for free, it would cost 30,000 crore rupees. The center must do so immediately. Unless the center gives free vaccination, she said she's going to go on dharna in front of the Gandhi statue in Calcutta's Esplanade. So you can see how the response to the pandemic is getting telescoped into what could possibly become a political snowstorm.
Thank you very much, Shujan. We're running short of time. Otherwise, I would have liked to ask you many more questions. Thank you very much. And on that note, that Mr. Modi has a lot to worry about. He has a lot on his plate. We are there for him. If he needs any kind of information from journalists, we are right here. I'm Rukmini Sen for National Herald.